Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're doing well. Today I'm going to be reading some historical fiction from my physical TBR. It's funny because I really wouldn't consider myself a historical fiction reader, but every time I read historical fiction, I love it. And when I look back through the books that I've read, I have a lot in there. So I don't know what planet of delusion I'm on that I don't think I'm a historical fiction reader, because I definitely am. And to support that point, when I was trying to plan out the books to read in this video, I had like 12 that I wanted to read and had to whittle it down, don't worry. But I think I might need to do a part 2 because I really love this genre. I will say I've realized a lot of the historical fiction books I like to read are mystery set in Victorian England, either with a Jack the Ripper or Sherlock Holmes twist. Yep, that's a lot. There's more of that in this video than I realized, but I will get into it and you guys can judge me afterwards. Okay, let's go. So the first book I read was Dust and Shadow, an account of Jack the Ripper by Dr. Watson. Oops, it's a mix. It ticks both the boxes. And this is by Lindsay Fay. And I was actually a little bit disappointed by this book. I gave it 3 stars. A lot of what carried this book for me was the premise that Sherlock Holmes is investigating the Jack the Ripper murders. I think those are very interesting things to bring together, and I really did enjoy that aspect. One of my favorite historical fiction mysteries is the Stalking the Jack the Ripper series by Kerry Maniscalco. I would highly recommend if you guys haven't read it. It also has like a romance subplot. I don't think this one really did. This was a fun read. It was an audiobook that I listened to, but yeah, it was just a little bit forgettable for me. I definitely like enjoyed it in the moment, but it was nothing special, nothing crazy. They didn't do anything crazy with the characters. But I enjoyed myself. It was a very interesting mystery, an interesting concept. I really love the side character they kind of brought in. She was so much fun and brought a lot of life to the story that really needed it. But yeah, overall, it was a little bit disappointing. I don't think I was expecting anything crazy. It was what it said on the tin. But yeah, if you're kind of looking for a fun audiobook, a little bit of a Victorian mystery with some loved characters, then I think it's a good go, but definitely hasn't made me eager to read more from this author or anything crazy like that. The next book I read was Anatomy by Dana Schwartz. This has been on my TBR for ages. It's on my Kindle TBR, which is another one of my goals this year, is to read through my Kindle TBR, so yay Fallon. I enjoyed this book. It was okay. I was happy to get it off my Kindle TBR. This is also set in Victorian England. Shh, I don't want to hear it. I understand. It's also a mystery. So we follow Hazel, who is kind of a society lady who is supposed to get married off to, I believe, her cousin, which that was just casually dropped in there. We didn't really need that, but fine. And she wants to be a surgeon, so she keeps sneaking off to all these anatomy lectures. She tries to get into university, do all that stuff. Her betrothed has kind of thought that this was like a fun joke that she's had since she was a kid. Like, it was like, oh, that's fun for you to be interested in, but as you're coming into being a lady, oh, we're still on that. So she kind of stops liking him then. She kind of was okay with marrying him because she thought that he would kind of just let her do whatever, but that kind of puts a hiccup in things. And then she comes across Jack, who is a grave robber. They have like a funny name for him, but he steals bodies to provide to anatomy lectures so that they can do like postmortems and demonstrations on them. And yeah, Hazel kind of befriends him and gets him to start bringing her corpses so that she can study in secret and try and pass her exams. So it's a fun concept. The mystery was interesting. Jack's friends start disappearing, who are also like these grave robbers, and there's stuff that's kind of wrong with the bodies. I honestly can't remember. But I do remember it being kind of a fun time. It's a duology. I might continue it. I'm not sure yet. But it would definitely be like an audiobook if I'm needing something to listen to. But it was fun. The two of them are fun. The romance didn't really do anything for me. Meh. But the mystery was interesting. I genuinely didn't see it coming, so that was kind of fun. And yeah, I think it's more YA than I realized. I'm definitely running across this issue a lot as I'm reading through my physical TBR and just through my backlog of TBR. There's a lot of books I've had on here since I was a teenager, and I just don't care anymore. I can't read YA anymore. It's just, I can't handle it. They're so silly. I just want to smack everyone. That's so mean. Okay, no, I take that back. But I just don't have the patience for it that I used to, and everything feels a bit surface level for me. But it is a good book. I would recommend it definitely to a younger crowd, and I think a lot of people would enjoy it. It just didn't really hit the mark for me. I've also read far too many Victorian mysteries, as you can tell, so the standards are a little bit too high now. The next book I read was A Study in Scarlet Women by Sherry Thomas. Can we guess what this is? I'll give you guys 2 guesses. You can guess where it's set and what twist it has. Oh, look, it's another Sherlock Holmes retelling in Victorian England. Whoops. I have an obsession. I did not realize this, guys. This might be a problem. Um, I don't think there's a support group for this, but if there is, let me know. So this follows Charlotte, who, like Hazel, is kind of sick of the limitations of being a woman in Victorian England, and she has this kind of scandal that happens to her family, and she's trying to help clear the family name by giving tips to the police under the assumed name of Sherlock Holmes. So it's a very fun twist. It's not something I've seen before, and I really did enjoy that aspect. She then picks up her Watson, who is an older woman who's like looking for company, and it was a bizarre meeting. They're bizarre characters. I really love the two of them together. They've kind of got a found family element where they're both, finding what they need in the other person, and I really love the gender bend on both characters. It was a lot of fun, and it wasn't kind of too, I don't know, far from the original characters. I kept a lot of the really fun elements of Sherlock and Watson, but really inserted it nicely into what a woman would be like in that era. We get a lot of kind of Sherlock's flamboyancies of like him wanting to dress up in disguises all the time. But Charlotte loves a good disguise, and that's always so fun to read about. Something I love when I read the actual Sherlock Holmes books, and I don't see that kind of brought into retellings a lot, so that was a lot of fun. Charlotte was also quite sassy, but she's not quite as rude and doesn't have the same unlikable bite that Sherlock can have in some of these retellings, where people kind of use it to make him the bad guy almost. And I really liked that the author kind of kept his charming and fun elements and kind of gave him a little bit of softness through this character. But yeah, overall, I love this. The mystery was really fun. I love the relationships between Charlotte and her sister, Charlotte and her family, and then Charlotte and Watson. And yeah, I would honestly highly, highly recommend this. I listened to the audiobook, and it was a lot of fun. And I think it's a series, and I will definitely be continuing with it, which is not great because I'm trying to finish my series this year, but I will make an exception because this one was so much fun. The last book I read was The Personal Librarian by Marie Benedict and Victoria Christopher Murray. I was so disappointed by this book. This was ended up being a 1.5 star from me. This was off my physical TBR, but I've already unhauled it. I did actually unhaul it and didn't just chuck it away where it belongs. But yeah, this book is about JP Morgan's private library and the librarian he brings on to help curate it. I believe the woman that it's based on is a real person. So that was always fun. I do like reading about an actual like person. And this one is not set in Victorian England and is not a mystery. So we've got a win there, right? This is set in the 20s in New York, and we follow Belle, who is a light skinned black woman who is kind of masquerading as a white woman to further her career. So she's always loved books. She's always really been involved with libraries. So she becomes a librarian and then kind of like accidentally through a friend gets scouted for this job at JP Morgan, he's like the dude who started Chase. I'm pretty sure he's a very wealthy man back in the day. But he had this library where he's curating all these rare books and all these collections of different things. And she really loved that. So that's what I thought it was about. I didn't know about the kind of race element to it. And I was really disappointed by how it was handled. Definitely not that I'm an expert, but it was kind of just turned on and off for when it was convenient or not to the plot. And it was very strange. I do think it's a very interesting thing to read about, is someone that's having to completely like reshape their identity and their race to further themselves and their family. But it just was such a strange way to write about it. And this book was just, there was so much going on, like but also nothing going on. So the building of the library itself was super interesting, and her sourcing these things, and as a woman doing that and learning, coming, she kind of got the job because there was this kind of eccentric guy who hired her and was like, I like you. She was not super qualified for it, so it was a lot of fun kind of seeing her getting over her imposter syndrome and finding out, how she could do this job. But then the author would kind of remember, like, half the chapter in, like, oh yeah, she's also really insecure because she doesn't want anyone to find out her secret. And it was just strange. It was just kind of like, they forgot about it. And I was honestly really disappointed because I've been looking forward to reading Marie Benedict's work. I have a couple of her books on my TBR, and I'm kind of reconsidering it now because I really didn't enjoy this one. I also just didn't like the main character. I didn't really connect to her, and she was just kind of dumb sometimes. Like, she would just make terrible decisions with no forethought, and it was really frustrating to see that. And her, we'd listen to her thoughts about her worrying about being an imposter and having to do everything, twice as well, not only because she's a woman, but because she was a black woman and she had this secret hide and she wanted to excel. She had all these siblings that she was trying to help get to college, and then she would go to a party and drink too much and be like hinting about all of her secrets and be like, oh, what's going to happen. Or I mean, she had all these relationships with people, and it was it was just a headache to read. I'm honestly surprised I didn't DNF it. This is like a slap on the wrist for Fallon because I should have DNF'd this one. It's a real shame because I really enjoyed when we were talking about the library. The description of the library was fantastic, and I really loved hearing about her curating different things. But yeah, I was just super disappointed with kind of how all the social elements were handled, and I was really expecting more. So unfortunately, was not a very successful read. Alright, guys, that is all the books I read for today. I guess I kind of lied to you guys at the beginning saying that all of the books I read that are historical fiction I end up loving. I did enjoy all of the Victorian England mysteries, but they're not really strictly historical fiction. So I think we'll definitely have to take another stab at this video and read some pure historical fiction and see if we can get some better results. But I appreciate you guys joining me for the ride nonetheless. I think I said, but one of these books was from my Kindle TBR, which was great to tick that off. And then the other one was from my physical TBR, which I did unhaul. So did still make progress, although I did add a series to my currently reading series. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys have any historical fiction recommendations for me, please let me know in the comments below. And I hope to see you in another video soon. Bye!